Hi, I'm Willie Simpson, aka Wilson Bag, and welcome to the next episode of Superhero Club Review. Now, at the end of my last review, Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Worst Film Ever, I promised all 73 of you X-Men. Well, I can't really talk about the movies until I break down the legendary cartoon series. So here you go, part 1 of my epic 2-part review of X-Men, the animated series. The year was 1992, and the X-Men was the hottest comic book property in the world. Artist Jim Lee's revamped X-Men #1 sold a staggering 8 million copies, to this day the highest selling comic of all time. Seeking to capitalize on its growing popularity, Fox, Saban Entertainment, and Marvel produced X-Men, a cartoon based on Lee's art, but rooted in the franchise's rich history of stories and lore. The show went on to be one of the most successful Saturday morning cartoon shows ever and lasted 5 seasons, and here's why. When I was a kid, I used to collect comics, comic book trading cards, as well as draw comic characters all the time. I was one of millions obsessed with the amazing colorful heroes and villains that filled my imagination with pure wonder. A collective desire was born from this excitement, to see these characters and worlds come to life. But in 1992, the options were limited. There was only a handful of Superman or Batman movies, and most TV shows were cheesy, like the live-action Spider-Man show from the 70s that they would show around Thanksgiving every year. And the Marvel cartoons that were sporadically produced from the 60s through the 80s were hard to come by for young kids in the age before YouTube or Netflix. There was a huge void to be filled, but luckily the X-Men came along right at the fever pitch of that desire, and boy did it deliver. While the producers of X-Men made sure to define the limits of violence for the predominantly young audience, this cartoon pushed boundaries with its adult themes and cinematic direction.
I'm worried about Rogue, Cyclops.
Why?
Because I know how she feels when I touch your hand, or when we kiss.
The X-Men were adults and behaved as such. They conveyed mystery.
What we know about him?
Only a little more than we know about you. You've never been straight with us. Not completely.
Grief.
Why did this have to happen to me?
Rage and power.
Oh, cowards! All of them!
Wolverine!
Tell Cyclops I made him a convertible.
With a striking animated style rooted in realism and top-notch voice acting, the X-Men became appointment television. I was hooked, and so were millions of others. The show ruled, and still rules to this day. Well, mostly. It wasn't perfect, and the show that came closest to perfect was Batman. And trust me, I'll get to that one eventually. But X-Men did strike a perfect tone right away, symbolized by its epic, sweeping instrumental theme song. An unforgettable, adrenaline-fueled guitar attack that set you up perfectly for the battle between the good mutants and the evil ones. To me, this is the defining music of the X-Men, and it's an absolute failure of vision for it not to have been the primary soundtrack in the X-Men movies that followed in the show's wake. Anyway, the legendary first episode, Night of the Sentinels, actually a 2-parter, introduced us to the cast and world of the X-Men. In sharp, gritty, neo-futuristic strokes, we're presented with a realistic world gone mad from the growing mutant hysteria.
Can't you do something?
What do you want me to do? Arrest him?
A backdrop that serves as the perfect stage for the very unreal X-Men to inhabit.
Must be a sale.
The first mutant we meet is Jubilee, a 90s mall rat with incredibly weak and pointless firework powers. She's the show's biggest misfire, a near-defenseless teenage girl who's allowed to accompany the adult X-Men on extremely dangerous missions. She's basically an updated version of Kitty Pryde, the teen mutant from the late 70s who could walk through walls. In my opinion, they should have just updated Kitty, as she is both smart and useful in a fight, and she would have encapsulated all of Jubilee's teenage angst and drama. Regardless, we follow the wide-eyed Jubilee as she is being hunted by the extremely gargantuan Sentinels, mutant tracking robots created and run by a cabal of Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld-like militarists. I love the Sentinels and their perfectly menacing robo-voices. The reason the Sentinels made for great enemies on the show was because as robots, the X-Men had no problem unleashing all their unstoppable power and thrashing these garbage cans. But back to the main cast, where we soon meet the sexy Rogue and Storm, 2 ultra-powered mutants who help draw in X-Men's significant female viewership. And to transition from killer ladies, we meet the Lady Killer, Gambit, perfectly voiced by actor Chris Potter.
I like solitaire, okay? Unless I got someone to play with.
Gambit was one of the show's most popular characters because of his cool, dry wit,
Don't worry, Cher, your insurance can handle it.
destructive powers,
Apprehend this!
and
I
mysterious
wish
shadowed
you would have asked us
past.
to help him. After all this time, he should trust us.
The Cajun don't trust nobody.
Gambit also had some of the show's best one-liners.
Everyone can relax. Gambit has returned.
But this one, from the Phoenix
Listen up,
Saga,
people.
might be my favorite.
Jean has something to say.
In our hands lies the fate of 1 billion star systems, of lives beyond measure.
Just what I wanted to hear.
Next comes Cyclops, my personal favorite X-Men.
Cyclops, get down!
Like Cyclops, I had to wear glasses all the time. The only difference was that when he took his off, this happened.
Energy blast, huh? Here's one from a pro.
When I take mine off, the world just gets blurry. Most people hate Cyclops because he's an uptight do-gooder who plays by the book.
I go where I wanna go.
But I think he is great. He is so tightly wound that he actually ends up losing his cool frequently, often recklessly blasting the shit out of things with his incredible eye beams of destruction. Check out this scene where Mr. Sinister captures Cyclops' girlfriend and flies away with her on his jet. Cyclops, you know your woman is on that plane, and if you shoot it down, she will die. But another thing that makes Cyclops great is his hatred and rivalry with Wolverine. It's one of the hallmarks of what makes X-Men great in any medium. Next, we meet the brainy and beautifully written Beast, who spends the near entirety of Season 1 in prison as a political prisoner for mutant rights. Heady stuff for a kid's show, right? Then we meet a goofball shapeshifter named Morph, a character not from the comics, but created especially for the show. Morph tragically dies in Episode 2, an incredible plot point handled with dramatic excellence by the actors and producers. Morph's death is a prime example of the wonderful cinematic direction and pacing the show offered. The entire death happens in a tortured Wolverine flashback, which is then followed by one of the greatest moments in the show's run.
Cyclops!
I know how you feel about it, Wolverine, but...
You know nothing, little man. Next time, I use these.
I've taken it out from you!
Let's do it. Let's see how tough you are when you ain't giving orders.
Cyclops! Wolverine! Stop it.
Damn it,
Soldier
Jean,
boy
let them
here left
fight.
him behind.
There is one thing that made no sense about Morph's death. Why the hell is he trying to protect the unkillable Wolverine? Wolverine can probably survive a nuclear explosion, let alone a puny Sentinel laser blast. There is no need for Morph to sacrifice himself. But alas, it did make for good drama, as well as set up Wolverine's fierce samurai loyalty, a major theme that would come to play in later episodes.
I'll avenge you, my friend. I swear it.
And since Wolverine has come up so much already, let's break him down now. First of all, voiceover actor Cal Dodd's performance as Wolverine is the quintessential performance of Wolverine. Whenever I read the comics today, this is the voice I hear. He nailed the character perfectly. His grunts, rage, sadness, humor, it was all over the place.
Maybe the prop's taking a snooze. You think you can land this tub by yourself?
Second, the voice was so good that it makes up for the fact that the producers could never show Wolverine actually use his claws to murder anybody. A tricky feat, considering killing is a central aspect of the character's makeup. And it's worth noting that just like in every incarnation of the X-Men, Wolverine finds himself center stage a little too often. But his long and interesting past did make for some great episodes. Wolverine's past would always haunt the man, and would explode with amazing confrontations with the likes of Omega Red, Sabretooth, and even Alpha Flight. Rounding out the team are the two telepaths, Jean Grey and Professor X. Professor X, of course, is the leader of the group and is wonderfully voiced by Cedric Smith, who ironically married voice actor Catherine Disher, voice of Jean Grey, in real life. Jean is kinda boring, and she's very loyal to her fiancé Cyclops. And even though they explore Wolverine's desire for her, they never pushed it, and it's clear Jean will never betray Cyclops. She does get two huge moments to shine in the epic Phoenix and Dark Phoenix sagas, the two best stories in X-Men history. They deal with her descent from good to evil and from death to rebirth. While mostly loyal to the comic version, the producers toned down the aspect of the evil Dark Phoenix. In the comics, Dark Phoenix kills billions of people in a far-off solar system. In the cartoon, that solar system was uninhabited. It's moments like these where the show was limited by boundaries of violence set for young audiences. Right along this line is how no character is really allowed to use the words kill or killing. Instead, they all use the word destroy. It's a substitution that is kind of humorous at first, but soon becomes annoying over the course of 5 seasons.
You're destroying him!
And in keeping with the good guys a moment, one thing I never understood about the show was why the producers never wanted to add new team members. Sure, we'd meet Angel, Iceman, Colossus, Psylocke, Longshot, and a bunch of others, but they would only be special appearances. I mean, this was a cartoon. Shouldn't they have been able to expand the cast anytime they wanted to? I really don't know, but this is a good place to end part 1. But please continue on to part 2, where I'll dive into the show's many evil villains, great stories, and more fun facts. For InternetClub91.com, I'm Willie Simpson.